Not much, dude. All right,
You see my screen?
Yeah, you're on live. It's broadcasting, so it's recording.
Money. All right. How's it going, everybody? Thanks for bearing with me and waiting. One of you guys want to take a seat?
I'll stand. Yeah,
cool. All right. Great. All right. So today we're going to talk about noise reduction. I don't like to teach on stuff on particular pieces of software because not everybody has a particular software or wants to pay the money for it. But I like this particular piece of software because, number one, it's kind of the best around at it within reason, and also a lot of the principles that it uses apply to a lot of other different softwares. Okay, so this is called iZotope RX. It functions a lot of the same ways like Adobe Audition does. Like a lot of the terminology and stuff is the same, so it's cool to teach with because you guys can apply these principles other places. Okay, so number one rule of noise reduction is use your ears. Okay, number one problem with noise reduction is people do too much, and it makes things actually sound kind of funny and a lot of times worse than it originally did. Dialogue is king, right? Intelligibility is our goal. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a listen. This first clip was recorded outside. Here's our noise floor.
We're making great progress in terms of cleaning up the air, but it's going to take a while still.
All right. I can tell already that's like from the freeway or the road or something, right? It's like fairly consistent, so we can work with it.
We're making great.
So let me talk about the window that we're looking at really quick. So iZotope RX has a couple different views. This is the waveform view. You guys may be familiar with this from other audio and video editing softwares, right? Has your waveforms represented linearly. If you zoom in, they kind of look like the pictures I was drawing on the board. And you can see here's him talking and here's our noise floor, right? So signal to noise ratio in this recording is good but not ideal, right? Because
we're making great.
It's a lot of noise, right? Makes it difficult to do our cuts with so much noise, and it kind of takes you out of the story, whatever you're paying attention to the noise. So what we can also look at is called a spectrogram view. This is like an audio nerd view, right? So you have your frequencies are represented vertically. Okay, so you have 0 hertz is down here and all the way up to 20 hertz or 20,000 hertz. And so you can zoom in and look at, like here, we're looking at 10,000 hertz and you can get real crazy with it, right? And so here's our full view again. So you can see the lighter the color, the higher amplitude of sound. So you can see when he starts talking, you get some really nice bright yellow orange streaks. And here's your noise floor. You know, it's not quite as loud, but it still exists underneath. And you can see the frequency spectrum that noise takes place in. And unfortunately, it's pretty broadband. It means it's taking place in a lot of the frequency spectrum, right? That's like a lot of times how man-made sounds are. If you're recording out in nature, a lot of times you're lucky because things like birds and crickets and stuff generally live in one frequency range. You know, that has to do with nature and evolution and nonsense that we're not going to get into now. But so here's our noise, right? It's pretty broadband, but we're going to do some noise reduction. So the most common tool people use in iZotope RX is called denoise. Okay, Patrick, are you still with me? I'll make sure that he's here.
Yeah, he's still here. We just got our mics muted.
Cool. I just wanted to double check and make sure. Great.
Yeah, I'm still here, Jacob. And
Thanks,
we
man.
hear you real clear. It's pretty cool.
Money. All right, we're looking good. We're crushing it on the audio end, everyone. Great job. Teamwork. Okay, so here's our noise floor. Okay, so how these tools function is in order to be able to reduce the noise, they need to know what exactly the noise sounds like, right? Because waveforms are really complex. It can't just listen to it and tell the difference between noise and speaking. So you have to show it. So we're going to pull up our denoise tool, and we're going to use the dialogue denoiser for this one because we got a guy talking. You know, it's fine. And we're going to highlight a section of our noise. Right, that's pretty clean noise. Some birds in there, whatever. And then I'm going to set this to manual mode, and I'm going to hit learn. And you can see these blue dots, they move to represent the noise print that I gave it. So here it is flat, and I hit switch to manual, and I hit learn. This is the spectrum, frequency spectrum of our noise, right? And so what this does then is it starts gating individual frequencies. So it's only going to allow certain frequencies to pass when the guy is talking, and you're going to set your threshold or whatever. So let's listen to it. Here's with no reduction.
The economic costs of air pollution can be staggering.
They can indeed be staggering.
The economic costs.
Right, so we did a little bit of reduction. Here we can really, the cool thing about having real-time processing is that we can highlight a section and play with it and hear how it's affecting our sound. So
the economic costs of air pollution can be staggering.
Here's
just in
complete
the Los
noise
Angeles
reduction.
Basin alone, the costs associated with
Let's go back and listen to that again.
The economic costs of air pollution can be
That's
staggering.
what I would say.
Just in the Los
Too much
Angeles
noise
basin
reduction.
alone, the costs
Right.
associated with restoring.
Here's you know, a lot of reduction with a regular threshold.
The economic costs of air pollution can be staggering. Just in the Los Angeles basin alone, the costs associated with
Let's say actually we're not far off. I think we're doing a little too much. Another foundation rule of noise reduction: it's always, always, always better to do less noise reduction multiple times than it is to do one pass with a lot of noise reduction, right? So rather than do 25 decibels of noise reduction, let's do like, you know, five times or something, right? It's going to give you less artifacts and it lets your software kind of understand what's going on better. So let's hit process and see kind of what we're looking at. You can see already the difference here is pretty stark.
the economic costs of air pollution can be staggering. Just in the Los Angeles.
I kind of hear some funniness in there. So the great thing about Isotope is it has this really great undo thing. You see down here on the bottom right, I can take it back to my initial state, and every step that I do, say I do another noise reduction, it lets me go back one at a time and listen to each stage.
It's nice for comparison.
It's great for comparison. That's exactly what it's good for. So let's go too far here.
The economic costs of air pollution can be staggering. Just in the Los
Yeah,
Angeles
you hear the
basin
problems,
alone,
right?
the costs associated with respiratory
It's
infections.
really
It's
thin, underwatery. It's not good. We don't like that. So what we're going to do is take it back to our initial state. Let's do like 10 noise reductions. You know, I don't know what the, you know, thing is. And let's listen to that. You know, here's the difference, right? Pretty good.
The economic costs of
Getting
air
there.
pollution can be
Feeling
staggering.
good about that. Maybe I want to do a little bit more. So let's highlight the same section and let's bump it down to 8. Do a little bit more, right? Now we're looking at a pretty big difference.
The economic costs of air pollution can be staggering. Just in the Los Angeles basin alone, the costs associated with respiratory infections.
Now, I still think we went a little bit too far, but you guys kind of get the idea how this works, right? The idea is that you need to have clean room tone. That's why you always record in room tone, so you can, well, one of the reasons, so you can get a clean noise footprint and thus tell your software, this is what we're taking out, okay? So that's denoise. That's one tool. Let's move on to our next clip. We're going to use denoise again. This one is recorded inside. Different kind of noise floor.
Welcome to Temecula facility of Infineon Technologies Americas Incorporated.
Now, okay, number one problem, this guy is boring me to heck. He sounds really lame, but there's nothing we can do about that. So we're going to move on and talk about audio quality, right?
Welcome to Temecula facility of Infineon Technologies Americas
Yeah, we got a bunch
Incorporated.
of problems.
We are happy that you have chosen Infineon.
Oh, man, it's crazy. So we're going to go back to here. There we go.
Welcome to Temecula facility of Infineon
Okay,
Technologies.
so one thing I hear is the fluorescent lights in the room. Listen really closely for me, guys, just for a second here. It's pretty subtle. You can see it on our spectrogram now. See these lines here? Zzz. That's the buzzing. How crazy is that, right? So what we can do is use something awesome, like my favorite, one of my favorite tools. It's called dehum. Check this out. You can like tell it the base frequency and it'll figure everything out. So let's preview this. Let's see if we can figure it out. Presets. I bet we've got a cool preset in here. Let's try 60 hertz wide reduce.
Welcome to Temecula facility of Infineon
Does an okay job. It's not great for lights. We're gonna move on. Okay, so our other big noise is the air conditioning, right? Now,
Welcome to
if
Temecula.
I heard this in a show, I would say, you know, it's pretty good audio recording. You know, I might not want to mess with it. You know, it sounds pretty good. Honestly, your signal to noise ratio is really good. But let's say we're being especially anal, and you're going to send it to me later, and I'm going to work on it, and I'm going to be really unhappy if it's noisy. So I'm going to say, let's do denoise. Same as before. I'm going to hit learn. You can see our noise floor is lower than our previous clip, and let's preview that.
Welcome to Temecula facility of Infineon Technologies Americas Incorporated. We are happy that
Here's
you have
it
chosen
with the
Infineon
noise.
as your place of work. Infineon
Here's it without the
Corporation is
noise.
a world leader in manufacturing.
Now, the cool thing about the really subtle noise like air conditioning is you can reduce pretty far without it affecting pretty dramatically. So I'm going to go all the way to 12 and just process this whole clip. Boom. You can see a big difference already. Looking pretty good.
Welcome to Temecula facility.
Now, what's another problem that you guys hear with this guy's this deal? So tell me something.
After he says a sentence, he goes.
Yeah,
You hear
that's
that
one
go,
thing.
"Can
He
that
has
be
breaths.
taken out?"
Yeah, totally. I would do that in a different kind of tool, but you can see the breaths here. You know.
It's a little nasally to me.
Yeah, totally. That's another good point. Nasally. That's what I was looking for. We can reduce our breaths using this tool called spectral repair. This allows us to highlight a section and turn it down. So I have an attenuate tool. I can set it to strength 2.4 and process, and our breath gets a little quieter.
We are happy that you incorporated. We are happy.
You know, this isn't really the tool I would use for that. I would actually just take it in the editor and slice it out completely. But that's one option. But let's talk about how he sounds nasally.
Welcome to Temecula facility of Infineon Technologies America.
Not only does it sound nasally, it sounds hollow and kind of roomy. I'm guessing this was probably recorded in a small office, a small room like this without the acoustic treatment. I think Noah was in here a minute ago. Were you here for this one, Lindsay? Yeah. What was it, office or something?
Really tiny office.
Yeah.
With his desk and sort of
Yeah,
reflection.
totally. Desks, offices, they're the worst, right? Problem is, the smaller the room, the faster those reflections hit your microphone, and then they start to affect your sound, just like this. Remember I was talking about first reflections? They happen so fast, you don't hear them as reflections, right? Or as like reverb, like or echoes or delays or whatever. They just make the voice sound bad, right? So that's why it sounds hollow. So, you know,
Welcome to Temecula facility of Infineon.
there's not a lot we can do about that, but we can do something, we can do some EQing and kind of play with it, right? So I'm going to pull up our EQ, corrective EQ tool, right? This is what I did before. Let's go back to default. Another thing with EQ and noise reduction, it's really easy to do too much, right? So we got to be very subtle. So let's listen to this. We said it sounds nasally, it sounds a little hollow.
Welcome to Temecula.
I'm gonna look around for
facility of
those sounds.
Infineon Technologies Americas Incorporated. We are happy that you have chosen
Kind of the
Infineon as
honkiness.
your place of work. The Infineon Corporation is a world leader in
Some of the
manufacturing of
nasaliness.
electronics. Infineon designs, develops, manufactures,
Easy to go
and
too
markets
far.
a broad range of semiconductors and system solutions. The focus of its activities is
Sounds a
on
little bit
automotive.
better. Now I might want to add some body back into his voice.
Welcome to Temecula facility of Infineon Technologies Americas Incorporated. We are happy that you have chosen Infineon as your place
A
of
little bit
work.
better. Let's listen to it and we'll hit bypass, right?
Welcome to Temecula facility of Infineon Technologies Americas Incorporated. We are happy that you have chosen Infineon as your place of work.
Difference is pretty subtle, but it's a little bit of an improvement. You know, it's really easy to go too far, right? So let's say I did something like this.
Welcome to Temecula facility of Infineon Technologies
It kind of
Americas
starts to
Incorporated.
sound unnatural. You know, it's good, but it's not like, you know, really real or whatever. So anyways, the trick is to be careful, EQ. So we processed this one. Sounds pretty good. Let's listen to it.
Welcome to Temecula facility of Infineon Technologies Americas.
Oh, sorry. Too far. Okay. Here's the initial one.
Welcome to Temecula facility of Infineon Technologies Americas
Or
Incorporated.
after one. You know, it's a big improvement, you know, not totally necessary, but you did it. All right. Let's do another one. This is my favorite. This was recorded in this room, I believe. You may have been here for this, Lindsay. I'm not sure. This is a
This is going
voiceover
to be
recording.
Pyrophoric gases are used here at Infineon Temecula. Pyrophorics are materials, solids, liquid.
So we got a lot of good things going for this recording. Number one, it was recorded in a quiet room. The noise floor, solo, I probably wouldn't even mess with it, right? Like, it's really good.
Pyrophoric gases.
Yeah. Not worth messing with, right? It's really quiet. We're in great shape. That's like studio territory. So
Pyrophoric.
this is the problem that I hear, and there's a lot of this throughout. Hear that? Give that girl an apple. That's a voiceover recording trick. If you're getting a lot of spit sounds, eat an apple, okay? Pro tip.
Pyrophoric gases
And that kind of is
are used
throughout,
here
so
at
listen for a
Infineon
second.
Te- I can't talk already.
Oh, man, killing me.
Pyrophoric gases are used here at Infineon Temecula. Pyrophorics are materials, solids, liquids, or gases that spontaneously ignite
You
when
can hear it in
released
between
the-
almost every word right through here, right? She's opening and closing her mouth, as actors do. And it sounds like that. Now that's really subtle, and you won't always notice it, but those kind of pops and ticks that come from that kind of sound, if you're doing post-production on a project and it's going to go through any kind of quality control, or it's going to go on TV, Some guy's going to sit there with headphones and listen really closely, and anytime he hears a pop or a tick, he's going to make a mark on a sheet, and you have to go back and fix it later. Because if you broadcast on TV, that affects like the way that they process their audio. It's a whole big thing. I'm not going to get into it, but we need to have it sound clean. So what we're going to do is listen back to these.
Pyrophorics are materials, solids, liquids.
You can hear a little bit in here, right? So a great tool for this is called D-Click. D-Click is really good at taking out little like small momentary sounds. The D-Click setting is really good at removing sounds that are clicky. I wouldn't call this clicky, but you can do this great thing where you listen to the clicks only. It's all in there, not really noticeable, but you can pull it out. But what we really want for something that's spitty is de-crackle. This is my fave tool. All right, let's listen to the crackle. That's a little more than I would do, but right, you can hear it all. Isn't that gross? Oh, it's the worst. So we're going to pull all that out. So what we're going to do is just highlight our section. Again, noise reduction, easy to do too much. I'm going to start conservatively. And remember, here's like kind of these spots are kind of where our problem areas are. So I'm going to keep an eye on those and let's process. Takes a little bit. And we already made a mistake, and that is that we left the crackle only button on. So guess what this is going to sound like? Great. So we're going to uncheck that box and redo it. I use this tool on a daily basis with studio recorded stuff. It's the reality of life. Let's see how it sounds.
Solids, liquids, or gases that
It's a little better. I still hear it in there, so I might do another pass, and this time I'm going to crank it up. Let's crank it up to 6.8. Process. And there we go. Now we're looking good. Let's listen again.
pyrophorics are materials, solids, liquids, or gases that
Yeah, you really were hearing it before in between those words. So let's listen.
pyrophorics are materials, solids, liquids, or gases.
Right now, let's listen to the initial one.
Solids, liquids, or gases that
You can hear it now, right? So that's another great tool. RX has a couple other good tools that I'm not going to talk too much about, but it has things like deplosive, de-reverb, which kind of works to varying degrees of success. That's a really tough one. If you're recording outdoors, it has ambience match, which allows you to basically generate room tone from a clip with no room tone, something like in our first one. And it has EQ and whatever, all that stuff. I think it's a good tool if you guys are doing film production, you're doing your own audio work, which a lot of people are, and you have mics up close, or you're really trying to produce high quality. It's a really good tool for that. I don't think it's very expensive. I think the version that I use costs like $350. You know, that's kind of expensive. If you're a student, you can get a discount. They'll like give you half off or something crazy like that. The version I use at work is like $1,200, but most people don't even need that. So, but that's iZotope RX. What questions do you guys have about noise reduction?
What did they do before digital?
I don't know, man. Things were just louder. Tape hiss, can you imagine?
They just left it there.
Yeah, well, you would just do something like this, right? Because, like, you know how we talked about we had this noise in here, like in our initial thing? Right, what you would have to do is take an EQ plugin and go through and listen to this and say, all right, where is that frequency, right? Oh, there's something right there. And then you would do this and make it super skinny and pull that out, right? And then you would go do that like 20 times. And it would take you forever. And that's basically what the noise reduction is doing. But the noise reduction is reacting to the person's voice, and this is not. So a lot of the methods we have now are superior. Technology is crazy. Like the fact that we can do this, totally nuts. But like I said, number one rule, be careful because it's really easy to do too much. Other questions?
Where does threshold come in? Because I on the app the program I use, it has a noise removal, and I highlight a section of noise or generic, and then it does kind of the learning function.
Yeah.
And then it does the whole thing, and then I highlight the whole audio clip.
Yep.
And then it does its own thing. But there's ways to adjust, like the onset and the threshold, and I don't understand how any of that works.
Let me show you.
Put it like a third of the way in and left it.
And you can get away with a lot doing that. The threshold, what this is doing is it's basically called a noise gate. So what it does is it listens to these specific frequencies according to this curve, and whenever and if the amplitude of the sound that it's listening to is below the threshold level, which is this blue line here, it turns it off. And then as soon as it moves above the threshold, and you can watch this take place here,
Welcome to Temecula
it opens
facility of
and allows that frequency to
Infineon
pass through.
Technologies Incorporated. We are happy that you
Right,
have
so if we
chosen
raise our
Infineon
threshold,
place of work. Infineon Corporation is a
it
world
takes
leader in
more
manufacturing
amplitude of
electronics.
sound to allow the sound to pass through. But if we lower the threshold, a quieter sound will allow it to pass through, which means a lot of times that our noise floor is now
Welcome to
above our
Temecula
threshold, so we're not
facility of
doing any noise
Infineon
reduction.
Technologies.
Does that kind of make sense? A little
Well,
bit?
I know on mine, and I have, there's a whole bunch of add-ins that
Yeah.
I could do. And what I've been doing is I'll have the original audio clip, and then the first thing I'll do is I'll run gate over it,
Noise gate, yeah.
and then I'll run a compression over it,
Mm-hmm.
and then whatever's left, all the crap, I usually use the noise removal tool to do the rest of it. Should I not be doing all of those steps? Or am I duplicating those steps?
No, I mean, I think it's totally fine. I mean, the best thing to do is, like I said, use your ears. If it sounds better at the end, you're nailing it. Like, great job. But, if you start to hear that kind of underwatery sound and you hear it cutting in and out, you've probably done too much. It's fine. The thing to keep in mind about compression is, and this isn't something that we talk about in noise reduction, but a lot of times we compress our sounds, and basically what that means is you're taking the louder sounds and turning them down so that they're closer to the level of the regular sounds, right? So the problem is that noise is a quieter sound. So if you have a noise floor in your thing and you compress it, you're turning down your voice and bringing up your noise floor.
Because the
So
problem
it
I'm
can
running
be kind of
into
reversing your
is I'll
noise
put out,
reduction.
let's say, a podcast,
Mhm.
and I'll have it in the car, and it gets louder and quieter and louder and quieter. And
Yeah.
I thought by compressing it, I was keeping the highs not as high and the lows
Yeah.
not as low, and then the whole thing was kind of the same volume.
Yeah.
So a compression isn't really the volume so
Well, it
much.
is, and you're right. That's the right thing to do. But the trouble is the limitations of that is that it's affecting everything.
Okay.
So, but by performing noise reduction before you compress it, then you're, keeping that noise from becoming louder because you're eliminating it in advance.
Okay. So I should do
Yeah.
that
So I would
first.
say, I would do noise reduction, cleanup all the time is usually at the beginning of the signal chain. Then you perform your compression and your equalization and stuff after.
Okay.
Other questions? Cool. I've bored you guys for like 3 hours now, so thank you guys for sticking with me. Thanks for coming out.
It was great. Thank you.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Thanks. All right. Pat, we're all done, man. I'm stopping the broadcast.
Good
I
job.
think he's muted. Yeah, he's muted. I think you can hear us though.
I can hear you guys.
Yeah, he's got
All right,
two bot attacking him. So
Thanks, guys.
yeah, it was awesome.
Oh yeah,
Thanks.
thanks, man. That was awesome. Okay, you still on there, Steve?
Yeah, I'm still on here. I'm about to hang up and then
Yeah, hold
go to
on.
the storage shed.
Look at
All
this.
right, guys. I'll see y'all later. Thank you.
Yep, see ya. Thanks.
Hey, dude.